Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to show you a game I played last Friday against a friend of mine, and just before the game he requested that I posted this game on YouTube. So I will analyze this game and show it to you. So we started off, I was playing the white pieces and I started off with e4. And my opponent, who is a player who likes to play the Scandinavian defense, changed his mind and played the Sicilian defense. He told me this was because he wanted to learn something, and the Sicilian defense is of course a very aggressive defense. So I continued to play my personal lines, which is the Chameleon lines of the Sicilian defense, for white at least, and it can be played against almost every variation black can play in the Sicilian defense. So after knight c3, knight c6, I played knight g to e2, which initiates the Chameleon. So here my opponent played g6, so he was going for the dragon, or potentially the accelerated dragon. So I played g3, bishop g7, bishop g3, knight f6, I castled, black castles, d3, d6, h3, where h3 might seem to be a strange move, but it is to make sure black doesn't get a knight or a bishop on a nice g4 square. So mainly with that reason, h3 is a theoretical move and the Chameleon. Okay, my opponent here played a6, trying to get a queenside attack going, maybe, but if here very fast b5 would be coming, then I would play e5 to winning one of these knights. So here I played bishop e3, still keeping the idea of pawn to e5 and winning a knight, but my opponent played bishop to d7, so that idea is totally gone now. Here I played the move queen to d2, which my engine didn't like. Theoretical, it should continue like king h2, b5, then queen d2, b4, knight d1, knight e8, d4, takes, rook b8, a3, takes, and rook takes back, knight c7, knight takes on c6, bishop takes on c6, bishop h6, bishop takes, queen takes, and rook b5, and this is where my engine couldn't continue with theoretical moves, and it's about equal here. But I just don't like these positions so much, so I didn't play king h2. I played queen d2 here, trying to lure my opponent in some serious trouble. So queen c8, trying to win a pawn here on h3, and I just allowed that because I have some ideas in this position which engines also don't like, but you will see as we progress through this game. So bishop h6, bishop takes on h3, bishop takes on g7, king recaptures, And now I recapture on h3 with my bishop. The queen recaptures on h3, and now knight f4. Okay, I shall just play one more move for black, though the best move is queen to d7. But he didn't play that, he played the second or third best move, queen h6. Well, since my h pawn now is gone, I can try to start an attack on the h file, and that is exactly what my idea is in this situation. So I played king g2, my opponent played king g8, and now rook h1. Okay, I'm attacking the black queen now, and there are actually two moves, which is queen g7 and queen g5. Queen g7 is a very passive move, so you're locking your own queen up, and when I double my rooks on the h file, then a serious attack will be going on, and the queen will still be very passive there, back there on g7. So my opponent here played queen g5, which is the best move in this situation, and the engine says I'm seriously down a pawn, so minus 1.2 I believe was the evaluation of the engine. So here I started thinking, and I thought, well, what happens if my opponent can push in e5, because my queen back here on d2 isn't defended, and so I would lose material. And that is one thing I didn't want to happen. I'm down a pawn already. I have got some attack going for it, but I don't want to lose more. So I played knight to d5. Black captures, and I recapture with the pawn, of course, because otherwise my queen is hanging. And the best move here for black, it seems, is knight to e5. This may be with the idea that after I push a pawn, black can reroute after moves like b5, c4, and after that knight to c5, or also a possibility is of course knight to f6, and the defense will be okay again. But my opponent played here knight d4, so this only leaves the option, after I played the move c3, of knight to b5, knight to f5, or still pawn to e5. Pawn to e5 seems to be the best move, because black is still attacking my knight. I can take en passant, but after black recaptures with his knight, he gets the open e file, over which black can also try to get some pressure on my position. So I was happy to see that my opponent didn't play the move e5. He played the move knight to f5, which of course also isn't that bad, because now the knight can retreat to g7, which it will later on. Okay, so here my ideas were very clear. I needed to start an h-file attack. So first queen e2, making sure that e5 doesn't harm me anymore as it did before. My opponent played knight to g7, trying to defend his king position a little bit more. And now rook to h3. Okay, so not much going on here yet. So my opponent played the pawn to h5, which is a very committal move. The pawn can't progress because I would take, so, and there are possibilities of me playing pawn to g4 later on, trying to get rid of the h-pawn of black and try to force in a very quick mate. So first I played rook a to h1. So now I definitely have some pressure on the h-file going. For example, if the h-pawn of black is gone, then I threaten checkmate. Okay, so my opponent played rook a to e8, and here I thought, okay, what if I sacrifice, recapture, 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 then I would end up with a rook on h5. I sacrificed a knight against 2 pawns, and even later a rook versus the 2 pawns, so I would be heavy material down. But then I saw, what if black was just to take on d5 with check? That would lose another pawn for me, and potentially even the a2 pawn. And if black can get in moves like pawn to e6 and pawn to e5, then I would be totally lost. So here I played not the best move according to the engine. The engine likes queen e4 more. I played c4. We shall take a quick look at queen e4, why the engine thinks it's better. Well, just some very quick engine moves now. And I have to say that still I don't like this position for white. I'm still down a pawn, and I don't have my h-file pressure anymore. So I seriously don't like this position. So here I played the move pawn to c4, protecting my d5 pawn. So my knight is getting ready to sacrifice itself on h5. Well, that was if my opponent didn't play. Also not the best move according to engines. My opponent played queen e5 here. Well, the engine still thinks he should play e5, and of course very true. He now has a rook on the e-file, so after I would take, black recaptures, and after queen e4, knight takes, queen takes, pawn takes, I'm still down a pawn, and now black is even able to get some counter pressure going on. And in this position I'm still down a pawn, and well, I didn't want to end up in